Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Discourse. The Discourse is our weekly news show here at the NYU Game Center, the game design department at New York University. Each week, professors Frank Lantz and Naomi Clark talk about game industry news and give us their scorching hot takes. Are your opinions about to be validated? Stay tuned to find out. Take it away, Frank and Naomi.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Discourse. We have a very special edition of the Discourse with Frank Lantz joining us from the seat of a car. Is this your new streaming style, Frank?
Yes, that's the. I'm on location here in lovely upstate New York. Had a little power outage, but we're making it work.
Yeah. And so just so that everyone's aware, Frank's laptop will almost certainly die at some point during this show, at which point we'll hopefully be able to join us via voice. But let's just jump right into our first link.
Also, if you hear any honking sounds, that's because I'm surrounded by pickup trucks with Trump flags. I'm like the people on the Biden bus that got shanghaied. So
those
am I a hero? It's not for me to say, Naomi. I'm just doing what I do.
Yeah, you hold it. You hang in there, Frank, for democracy's sake.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna play this clip featuring Dan Rather. This is from 1982 when Boston was suffering a very different kind of epidemic than we're seeing today.
Steve Young's in dear old Boston, the home of the cod and the beef.
Is that audio coming through for you all out there in chat?
American city to zone those darned machines.
The way officials tell it, Boston has become the victim of an
This one needs the audio for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, it's got the Pac-Man eating the word
not just in
everything.
arcades, but also in drugstores, pizza parlors, supermarkets.
In some sections of the city, we have
this lady is the best.
And sometimes 3 machines in virtually every single corner store in a neighborhood.
City officials today announced that video games.
It sounds like maybe we need to bring up the levels on the video a little. I don't know.
Commercial and
it's a quiet video.
Officials say they are responding to complaints.
Audio levels weren't what they were, back in 1982.
And made a nuisance of themselves.
Oh, Dig Dug? That was my favorite in this era.
They have rights to go into the laundromat and wash their laundry in peace. They don't have to go by 2 or 3 machines or kids congregating and passing fast remarks as they walk in and terrorizing them in some instances as they go in.
Under the new regulations, licenses for about half the video games
kid taking his shirt off to play video games.
That's Marky Mark. I'm pretty sure that's Marky Mark.
Well, you can tell because he's got a third nipple, right? That's how you would know.
We requested to have video games
and the dojo.
Extra money so we could allow those.
Yeah, this guy's like every martial arts, every white martial arts instructor. He's like has the same mustache.
Yeah, like the guy who taught me Tai Chi, and he hated Noam Chomsky.
And then this kid grew up to be a game developer.
One MIT study of more than
what's the big deal? Why don't you go pick on those kids outside doing drugs? We're just playing video games in here.
That video games lead to violence.
So it's not clear. It's not clear whether people heard that, but
I think it is. Yeah, or at least
they did hear it. Okay, good. The highlight for me was the lady talking about old people have rights too. They don't need to walk by a bunch of teenagers with the fast remarks.
Yeah, fast remarks.
Making fast remarks.
We got virtually 2 or 3 video games in every corner store here. Yeah, so we're okay. That's our Boston accents.
Welcome to Boston Talk.
I'm allowed to do that. The Boston area. Yeah.
What was the best video game we saw in that clip?
I'm gonna go with Dig Dug.
I'm gonna say Dig Dug. Dig Dug jumped out at me as soon as I saw Dig Dug. I was like, yeah, I could go for some Dig Dug right now.
Yeah, I'm filled with nostalgia. Yeah. I guess those kids were a little bit, little older than me, a little younger than you back in 1982.
Zaxxon, I saw some Zaxxon in there.
I was really into Zaxxon.
Let's be honest. Can we be honest about Zaxxon now? It's not a winner. Right?
It's not great, but there's something really appealing about the feel and the perspective of Zaxxon.
It looks great. Zaxxon looks great. It's not that much fun. And most of the fun of Zaxxon is trying to wrap your head around this new form of isometric 3D. I'm like, oh, if I go left, am I going up? Am I down? Left, right? You're just trying to parse that whole new world of fake 3D. But it's a great looking game. But Dig
Right.
Dug, that's the go-to.
Yeah, and this struck me as like everybody was enjoying this video when it came out. Like there's even some articles came out about it, and I'm like, oh wow, we've reached the point where this cultural approbation about video games is now like quaint nostalgia, right? Where like I don't know, I feel like so much of my career in games, and I don't know if you feel this way too, Frank, has been kind of like there's been this shadow over it of like people in the game industry being really freaked out that like that we're not accepted, right? That we're like outsiders, that like people are going to keep trying to censor us because they think video games are evil and dangerous. And this is such like an old fashioned look back into the 80s, like a height of that.
I would say that the moral panic is still there. It's just within video games. We now are the ones who have a moral panic about games, being bad in certain ways or wrong in other ways. And so it's like, it's not that it's gone away. It's just we've internalized it and we project it on a certain category of games. So it'll never go away. It's like casual. Jesper Ewell used to say that casual games were the video games of video games.
Right. And now what is it? Is it loot box games? Genshin Impact, the video games of video games?
Everyone seems to have a kind of like laissez-faire attitude about that stuff. Everyone seems to be like, yeah, it's fine. I don't know what it is. I think it's more our the members of the video game world, the culture war within video games. I'm not going to talk about it. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, that one,
right?
yeah.
It's that's I think the site of most of the anxiety we feel about our art form now.
Oh my God, this made me realize I didn't put a very important culturally relevant link in here, which maybe, I don't know, maybe Logan, you could just dig it up and find it, but there's a new movie coming out starring Ellen Page as an esports coach.
Oh, right.
It's called One Up. Right, that's the name of it, which kind of for me summons like Super Mario, right? That's like
that's Hollywood flexing its deep knowledge of how esports work.
Right. It's just a reference, right? Like One Up, the esports movie.
Yeah.
And so there's a college student. It's being described as like similar to comedies like Pitch Perfect, which is about like an acapella team, right? But this is about like a college esports team. And here's the kicker, referring back to like here's the connection. Ellen Page plays like a gloomy older esports pro who has a dark secret in her past that has to do with Gamergate.
What would that be? So, did she dox someone, or did she like get doxed, or like what's the implication there?
I don't. So if I was gonna put money on something, I'm really afraid that it's gonna be something like Ellen Page was accused of having sex with a video game journalist in order to get a good review. Like it's gonna go back to that. Right. That's what people seem to think it's going to be. Right, like although it's not totally clear, it could be any number of things. It could be like, Ellen Page's character just hung out on 4chan all the time.
Yeah. That's
who
not
knows?
Really that doesn't really work as a dark secret though, because that's like someone accusing you of being a witch or something. Like it's not like that. Yeah. Anyway, well, she wasn't Ellen Page also in a video game. Who am I thinking of?
Yeah, no, Ellen Page, she's in Beyond Two Souls, right?
Beyond Two Souls, and isn't she sort of the model for the character in Last of Us?
Yeah, I mean, she definitely looks like they used her as a reference for that.
Yeah. Anyway, that movie's gonna suck. So let's give it 2 thumbs down preemptively.
Yeah, I don't even really want to know. Like I'd be okay like never hearing about this movieization again.
It has an 87% chance of being bad.
Yes, exactly.
That's my Nate Silver review.
Let's move on to the next link. What do we have after the Boston? Oh yeah. So the cultural relevance of games has just stormed forward, right? Like we're in this weird time with the Among Us stream last week for the AOC and Ilhan Omar, and now here's the funny thing. So this Fortnite map. This is in creative mode, right? And so like you can make your own maps, give out the codes, and like people can go and join these maps. And so I guess for me, the story is the Biden-Harris campaign paid somebody who's good at making Fortnite maps. Maybe it was game developers, maybe it's just for Fortnite players, to make this map, and it did not get finished until Saturday. At Saturday night.
80% of the country's already voted, and you're launching your video game map.
So I mean but that's well, I don't know. Like it feels to me like honestly it doesn't take that long to make a map in Fortnite, right? You're not like there's no code involved. Although it does sound like they put some thoughts into the activities going on here, and there's some stuff which I feel sort of dubious about. Like there's references to Scranton in there just because it's Biden's hometown, right? Like so somebody was given this job and they were like, oh, okay, what do I know about Joe Biden? I guess you can install 5G broadband towers that are called Scranton Towers because that's where Joe Biden's from. So I don't know. Someone was really struggling, but I was wondering, like, is this a victim? Do you think this was launched earlier in the campaign and just took forever to make? Or is it like they saw how popular the Among Us stream was and they were like, get some kids on making a Fortnite map right now?
I'm sure this was a long time in the making. I think they came up with this idea months ago, and it's just a lot of meetings, a lot of emails.
Right, probably. Now,
finding the right nephew.
The Animal Crossing island came out way before, like that came out weeks ago. Yeah. The Fortnite map just didn't come out until like 3 days before the election, like really late.
I mean, I was upset that it hadn't come out earlier, and I was sending them death threats because I was like, come on, what's the story? What's the holdup? I'm going to come burn your house down.
Yeah.
That's what I do when video games are late.
Right, exactly. So it's very par for the course for video games, but I guess it illustrates that some of the risks of being a candidate. And I have the same question that Herbivore is asking in chat, right? Like, why 5G broadband towers? Is that like a political issue? I guess it seems like it's part of their platform. It's like we need to make sure every American has internet access. So there's going to be 5G towers everywhere. Isn't that like the subject of a gigantic conspiracy that people are like freaking out about? Like even people on the left wing, I sort of know people who are like think that 5G is mind control.
Yeah, it's maybe not the best meme to try to put in your Fortnite map.
Well, especially in your video game, where I feel like the audience you're potentially reaching that way is maybe more susceptible to like 5G paranoia. But yeah, I don't know. This is so clearly like a little bit more ham-fisted and thrown together by committee than the stream, right?
Remember Second Life, Naomi? Remember, like Second Life used to be like this. It's just a perfunctory thing every corporation needed to do. To sort of indicate that they were somehow vaguely aware of the internet is to go make a dumb thing on Second Life. Yeah. And now that happens in Fortnite. Fortnite is the new Second Life. It doesn't bode well, quite honestly, for the continued cultural relevance of Fortnite.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because this is sort of in line with Tim Sweeney's ambitions for Fortnite, right? That he wants it to take the place of Second Life. He wants to go way beyond games, right? He wants it to be like yeah, and he wants it to have this like cultural position. And this is what Ian Bogost was complaining about kind of last week, right? The new role of games as just a place where things happen, like a cultural backdrop, just like the music that they pick out for a campaign rally. Right. Like, what's the video game thing you're doing? And I guess I don't know. Yeah. So your prediction is this is a bad move on Tim Sweeney's part. Like if he wants.
Yeah, it's just now it's all coming together because I know Tim Sweeney is obsessed with the metaverse.
That's right.
And sees these things as blending together into one big cyberspace hangout, which I'm dubious of that's going to happen. But
right, it's never been one of our favorite things. Like we've been making fun of.
I mean, those concerts that they had in Fortnite were really big, and people were super hyped about them. So yeah, maybe it'll work.
And the thing I was always dubious about with Second Life was that it was just a chat room where people who were pretty good with the tools could like add modeling and behavior, but it's kind of more for advanced users. And I don't know, like somehow maybe it's probably just my like gameplay bias operating within the way I evaluate stuff. But I'm like, oh well, Fortnite, at least there's actually they're emphasizing playability in various ways a lot more, right? In ways that I don't know line up with my prejudices about games and online spaces, right? Like you can make little gameplay quests for players, and that's actually what they did here, right? There's a race, there's a various types of collection games. There's like quests that you can do. I don't know, they're not good, it's not good gameplay, but at least it's something. I don't know.
It's an afterthought. It's an afterthought. It reminds me very much of the very early days of computer games, and your boss would see a computer game and be like, yeah, we should do that, but for email. And then your boss would make you make a 3D version of email. And because the idea is that the thing that people think they want is the 3D space. And it's true that that's an ingredient of Fortnite. I mean, but so it's just an attempt to sort of carve off the sensational aspect or the kind of surface level of a game and apply it to this other experience. I don't know. I don't think it's a great fit, but it's a better, it's interesting that this happened in Fortnite, but never happened in World of Warcraft, right? You would think, oh, World of Warcraft would be right.
Well, they didn't want to do it in World of Warcraft, right? They wanted to have their own like little fictional bubble, right, universe where there's a very clear division between they don't want that bleed across the magic circle. Maybe they actually read too many things about that.
Because World of Warcraft has this old-fashioned approach of a virtual world is a fictional space, where now in Fortnite and to a certain degree League of Legends, the fictional space is this transmedia, cross-property, multi-IP fictional space. It's the fictional space of the Marvel universe, where
everything collides at once.
Where everything's okay. So it's much more appropriate to have this use. So it's kind of a good fit with the stylistic approach as well.
Yeah, and Kira is asking, isn't this what we're trying to do with the Game Center online space? Which, for those of you who don't know, like we have our own little multiplayer server that we're messing around with, and have a replica of the physical space of the Game Center that a team of 10 students led by Greg Heffernan, aka Cosmo D, are working on. And I guess is that a metaverse? Is that the Game Center shared universe?
Yeah, it's the metaverse. And yeah, it's sponsored by Chase Bank.
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to be able to do all your banking in there.
And you can use Best Buy coupons to acquire digital goods. So I guess you're right. Yeah, it is very much like that.
Yeah. And I don't know, we've been talking about Julian stopped by that space and was like, oh, maybe we could put the soccer balls from Despelote into that space, right? So I guess that's the kind of thing that would cause that sort of bleed too. But let's keep moving. Let's go to another link before we lose Frank's visuals completely. This is something that that's kind of related, this next one, that I missed this at the beginning of the month. It's from October 5th. Nexus Mods, which is one of the biggest modding sites, has banned all political mods until the inauguration of the next president.
Ooh, that's
sort of interesting.
Inauguration. Oof.
Right. So like between now and January 19th or whatever, right? And I guess they saw this happen 4 years ago too, that like every time there's a presidential election cycle, I don't know, and this is kind of the low effort troll version of the same kind of activity that occurs in like with the Fortnite maps, right? Except it's like a modding community and a bunch of people are just getting attention for their mods by being like, I've changed the models for all of the zombies in this game into Democrats or Republicans or whatever, right?
Or Antifa or anti-Antifa.
Right, yeah. And so it's just I don't know. I sort of believe that maybe some people making these mods are like, yeah, this is what I think of as fun. I'm going to make them all look like Proud Boys, and then I'm going to shoot them, or something, right? But it's interesting to me. Like this is something where I was like, it doesn't seem unreasonable to me the way that Nexus Mods has approached this, to just say, look, there's no don't make mods of this sort. We don't want to deal with it. And I guess I'm looking at that from the point of view of this is, I don't know, more or less like a big community site. And they're not banning existing political mods. So they're basically like, yeah, people who have had political mods that have been around forever, don't worry about it. And after next year, you can start making them again. But during this season, we have a moratorium on it. And yeah, I don't know. Nexus Mods is host to all sorts of things. Robert Yang is pointing out, like Robert thinks in chat that they skew heavily pro Trump. I wonder if that's just because of like all of the weird. There's like all sorts of weird racist and sexist mods all over Nexus, and they don't usually censor that stuff. My sense is they did just because it's like a flood of low quality stuff that they don't want.
But it's also these mods are trolls, right? They are they're attention gathering mechanisms, and Trump is the troll candidate. Right? Why would you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a perfect fit. Like, whatever the ideological position of the people making these things, it's almost that it's almost a cipher. Like, they're just they don't have an ideological position. They are just an agent looking to maximize attention, and that is a troll position. And that aligns with Trump.
Yeah, it's feeding off of polarization, right? And just like the fact that people are getting upset about something, which is the same thing that the YouTube algorithms also do, that sort of like push everything towards the extreme.
Like if you heard that there was an outrageous mod of this type, and you heard it was pro Trump, or you heard it was pro Biden, which one would you check out? You can check out the pro Trump one. You want to see what's up with that. What ridiculous, stupid, horrible thing did they do?
Right. Well, because
like what wholesome, boring, ham-fisted attempt did the Biden team make?
Well, like who has better trolls? I mean, I don't know. I probably wouldn't check out either one. I'm more interested in downloading.
I don't even own a computer, as is obvious from my from what I'm doing right now.
For the fact that you're sitting,
I'm at 25%, by the way.
All right, yeah, that's not so bad. Okay, well, let's keep on powering through some more links. I have to say, for me, from Nexus, the only thing I want is Geralt of Rivia peeing realism mod. But yeah,
I just want to be able to go right through the airplane security line. Isn't that what they do? I thought that's what they did.
Wait, so this next one, this is the LA Review of Books, which
is a good article.
Yeah, if you don't know the LA Review of Books, they're one of the very highbrow lit crit book review organs of the United States literary establishment, and they've done a review. Well, this is basically a review of Dark Souls, and because they don't actually review video games, they're doing it in 2020 in the guise of like a review of the Dark Souls Companion, which has been written by Jason Killingsworth and Keza McDonald, two longtime video game journalists, and that it's kind of like a whole deep dive into Dark Souls kind of book, right? One of these books that I guess we've had for maybe 10 years now of like really, really going in depth in the game. But the review is interesting. It's saying Dark Souls is kind of like the Ulysses of video games. That's sort of what's being posited here. It's like a modernist novel in that it's really unapologetically like difficult to get into and extract meaning from, and you have to like find all the bits and pieces of fragmented story and really like have a close relationship with the text in order to like to get like satisfaction and meaning out of it that might be present on the surface of other works. But in Dark Souls or Ulysses, you really have to be like go down further into it to get the same kinds of enjoyment that are like handed to you on a platter in like in a more classical novel or a video game that's more user friendly, right? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, this is a very good article, and it is. I think I'm pretty sympathetic to this, even though. Why do we cut this a pass? If we mock people talk about Citizen Kane, right? So we're at the point where any reference to a video game being like Citizen Kane is a cue for us to roll our eyes. But somehow this seems a little bit more appropriate. There is this the part of the article where he talks about the sort of the negativity, right? The negative stance. I forget exactly the phrase that they use in the article, but it really did ring true. It's something about the attitude of Dark Souls that makes it feel like a piece of 20th century avant-garde, or kind of evoke that a little bit. There's something about the feeling of importance, seriousness of itself as a work, that there's something at stake here, right? That's a feeling that really does make it kind of evoke those famous 20th century, those big difficult 20th century works.
Right, and it's I don't know. Yeah, what was evocative for me in this was that it reflects my feeling about Dark Souls, that it's not trying to be accommodating. And I think talking about difficulty is the wrong way to talk about it, right? And actually, this review points that out at the beginning. They're like, it's not about how hard it is, even though it can be hard for a first-time user, because the difficulty is the least interesting thing about the game, which is a quote from this book that they're reviewing. It's really more about, like, it takes work to actually dig in to understand the story of Dark Souls, the world of Dark Souls, how to get the most out of it, how to dig for meaning
it's
in
not,
that
it's not
experience.
the difficulty of the combat per se. It's the overall difficulty of interpreting the game. And when you interpret a video game, you're not reading it exactly. You're not reading it like a text. You're trying to figure out how to read it. And that's what's similar to Ulysses. So when you're reading, it's questioning the standard conventions of the novel and how we're meant to read the novel. And in Dark Souls has a similar attitude towards video games. Obviously, it's not the only game that's done that. And what's funny about the reference is that Dark Souls is so thoroughly and enthusiastically pulp. Like, it's a heavy metal game. Like, it looks like a video game that was painted on the side of a van, visually. And it's also, you can't help but see the contrast between the audience and the way Dark Souls works and its relationship to its audience, and the way a high modernist novel like Ulysses worked in relationship to its audience, right? You can see
that's why it's modernist and not something more postmodernized, because like Ulysses is like the novel reader's novel of novels. It's like over the top novelty, right? And it's like for hardcore novel fans to be like, oh, you want something that's like, we return all this stuff up to the max until it's like almost sounds like noise in your ears, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's where the parallel makes sense. It's not actually deconstructing all of this stuff, right? It's like you actually get the same kinds of feelings that you're used to out of it, but it's not for everybody. So that's like
the thing in this article that I really liked was the way the reviewer talks about how even in the most difficult works of art, like Ulysses, even in the works that are trying to be challenging, trying to challenge your preconceptions and making a show of suppressing the easy pleasure of reading a story, of having suspense tickled, and then the resolution comes easily. Even when that's happening, that is always yoked to some primal pleasure. Like, even in Ulysses, there is the primal pleasure of the narrative suspense, the primal pleasure of gossip, or the primal pleasure of sympathy for this character and peeking into their life and seeing their troubled marriage and all of the kind of deep. So you need that in a work, and it's often those two things are combined, and that's the cocktail, right? So even when you have this austere kind of modernist approach, there's often a core of kind of traditional pleasure, and that's definitely true of Dark Souls as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of what makes it really modernist, right? As opposed to some like completely like throwing everything out and undoing the knot. Yeah, I know.
Even so I actually find it, right? You get that. Even in postmodernism, you still there's always some. If the work is successful, there's usually always some core of primal gut level pleasure.
Sure, yeah, you can't throw it all away. Like, and I think a lot of game developers would agree. So I guess the reason that I'm taken with this, whereas normally I would be like, oh, Citizen Kane of video games, whatever. This actually is laying out an argument that convinces me, and it also rings true, because I'm like, oh yeah, the way people talk about their love of Dark Souls reminds me too much of the way that when I was in college English classes, people would talk about how much they loved Ulysses. You're like, oh, like, have you actually read all of Ulysses?
Yeah, I think ultimately the reason it doesn't quite stick for me is that Dark Souls is pop culture, and Ulysses and modernist novels are not. They're high culture. They existed during a time when we had these categories of high culture and low culture, and that's a big part of their meaning. Dark Souls can't ever engage with its audience in that way because we no longer really have those categories.
Right. Although, if it is a little bit more of a rarefied pleasure than Fortnite or something. Right. It's
Is it though?
I think so.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I think at least a little bit. Like if you just
Yeah.
look at who's playing it, how they talk about it, there are different gradations of games in this time, right? Like we do have more obscure and more more rarefied stuff and less so. But I agree, it's not high culture and low culture. That's for sure. That's not operative in our realm. Let's keep going. So more interesting crossovers. This one was brought to our attention by Eric Zimmerman. Pointed out that there was a performance. I caught a little bit of this last week. Did you saw it as well?
Yeah.
So this was Celine Song, who happens to be the sister of NYU Game Center professor Winnie Song. And Celine Song is an artist who was using The Sims 4 to perform the seagull, right? No, and in an emergent way, right? Like I don't know, like how would you describe the way that she was orchestrating this?
In The Sims, you kind of train up your characters, and she was training them up in a way that they would reproduce the relationships and the patterns of the seagull. I assume. I'm not smart enough to know what the plot of the seagull is, so I assume that she was actually doing.
Oh yeah. Oh wait, you never read The Seagull? No, it's well, if you read one Chekhov play, it's like, I wonder what the fashions are like in Paris this year. Will we ever get back to the time when Papa was still here?
Is this the one where there's a rifle over the hearth in Act 1, or is that not Chekhov?
Oh, that is Chekhov's principle. I'm not sure if the seagull actually has the gun in Act 1, but yeah, like I watched this, and she's just streaming The Sims 4, which is great. I was sort of thrilled that this was being presented to a theater audience as a form of theater, right? But like in terms of functionally, she's in the corner of a game window streaming the game, and she's talking about what she's doing, right? So she's actually laying it out. She's like, all right, I think I want this character to be a little bit more like this is Masha, so we're gonna train her up this way. We're gonna push these two together, see if we can get them to have a fight. It was kind of
really good.
It was great.
Yeah.
So meanwhile,
high modernism.
There we go. Once again. So there's a good game culture crossover. We're still relevant now, everybody. Welcome to
stoned modernism. How about that?
Stoned modernism. Yeah, I think that's a good, probably apply here. Let's go all the way into the game world. So back in video games, the absent other culture, the CD Projekt Red, which likes to kind of make itself out as the video gamers game studio. We're just like you guys. We're just a bunch of guys who just really love games, and we just really want to make good games, and we love it. They're like getting death threats, of course, for having. I interpret this as being like they're getting death threats for having been too open about their design and transparent about their design processes with people who are too excited about their game coming out, even though this game looks so boring to me. And I've played all of the CD Projekt Red's games, and this is the one that's like least interesting to me. I think their games get less interesting as time goes on, unfortunately, and they get bigger and more polished. But
this one is going to be a real cathedral, and I like cathedrals. I like to visit them. I don't want to, set up camp in a cathedral and live there for 3 weeks. But it's going to be interesting. As far as the death threats go, I don't know. Look, we used to have a policy which was don't feed the trolls. And then we decided, okay, that was a mistake. We need to really dig into this and talk about this a lot and address it directly and just talk about it and air it out, and let's get it out in public. Let's talk about it more. Now I'm wondering if maybe we should just go back to not feeding the trolls. Like maybe talking about it didn't really help that much. And maybe this guy should have ignored it. Maybe we should have ignored it. Maybe we should just ignore these people. Maybe it will never go away, but there's some small percentage of pathological idiots and psychopaths out there, and and it's never going to get fixed. And
right. So it's at some point we reach the point where like everybody is aware that this type of like really horrible behavior is happening, and that it's wrong and bad, and that you shouldn't do it.
And it's probably related somehow in some mysterious way to the fact that our art form involves shooting people in the face over and over again. Maybe. Right? Like CD, like CD Projekt Red is an aestheticized, like their work is primarily an aestheticized dance macabre of horrible violence, right?
Well, no, and sex, right? That's actually the thing that they're good at. It's like they're very good at like libido driven design, right? Their second game was just to me is the most interesting because it's the most adolescent teenager game that I've played in a long time, The Witcher 2. Yeah. And and they've kind of grown up since then, but I think they still have this like, oh, we want to get gamers really horny for our game, right?
Yeah,
and like
it is. Look, the death threats are terrible, and it's a terrible shame. But again, there is something kind of heavy metal about the CD Projekt aesthetic. And imagine if you were in a heavy metal band and you got a death threat. I'm not sure you would be like, what would your attitude be? I mean, you might just throw the horns and move on. Like, come at me, bro.
Yeah, it's interesting that that CD Projekt Red has made a big deal out of this, because I would have guessed, if anything, that their response would be like, oh yeah, it's no big deal, we get death threats all the time or something. But like that's not, they're actually going along, they're doing the same thing a lot of other game developers are doing, and I don't blame them. Nobody wants to get death threats, but deploring it and being like, look, this is wrong. But yeah, like everyone knows it's wrong. There's still these assholes who are doing it, and yeah, maybe you're right. I'm kind of a little persuaded
that again. Let's go back to trying that for a little while.
But yeah, as long as we make sure the 13-year-olds know that it's not cool, then
I think we should literally arrest people when we can. I think when you do that, and we have the ability to actually just throw you in jail, we should do that. That's the way to get to the 13-year-olds. But no attention.
And I have a bonus CD Projekt Red link, which is that their other scandal in the last week was that they had an investor call that somehow got publicized on the internet, and the CEO was caught saying, oh, we're definitely going to crunch. Crunch is no big deal, because he's trying to mollify all of the investors are really upset about. The investors are really upset about the delay, right? They're like, are you going to lose a lot of the money? Is it definitely coming out in December? Because they're freaking out. And so then the CEO has to apologize to the staff for making light of crunch, right? So it's kind of a huge mess. I think I'm sort of curious about the fate of CD Projekt Red, right? Because I feel like, having consumed a bunch of their games all in this year, I sort of see their trajectory. It sort of reminds me of that game company at a larger scale in some ways, right? They've gone from like this somewhat charming, early, like super awkward, like work that's like driven, like in their case, by like goofy fantasy fandom and like very Baldur's Gate inspired, then all the way into this, like, to where they are now, where they're like pumped up by like a lot of fan enthusiasm and like, I don't know, fan horniness for like the ultimate game, right?
Where are they from? Like, where are they from?
They're Poland. They're in Poland, They're
Polish, right? I always like them just because it's got this weird Eastern European vibe that I like.
Right. Although they do, and so they're in a country where there are like huge zones that are like no gay allowed zones, right? But they're still sort of determined on making, I don't know, weird pervy stuff in their games. There's lots of gay characters in their games, but they're all kind of, I don't know, they're what I describe as like the Eastern Europeans' idea of like a Belgian bureaucrat is really gay and really bent on meddling in your country's economy. That's like, I think like the Eastern European.
We don't say bent. We don't say bent anymore, Naomi.
Bent? Wait, a Belgian gay bureaucrat is really determined to meddle in your economy. But and so now they're caught on the horns of like having to say crunch isn't bad, and then also make their employees crunch horrifically in order.
I think they're gonna survive this. They're gonna do fine. I think.
They're
Cyberpunk 2020 is gonna go great, and they'll be around for a long time. That's
Yeah,
my theory.
I'm just wondering, like, are they over the hill yet? That's my question. And they might, or this might be the hill. That's my that would be my prediction.
It'll be cool to see what studios spin out from CD Projekt Red.
Yeah, actually, that's an interesting idea too, because there are a lot of interesting games coming out of Eastern Europe, obviously.
Every big game that comes out nowadays, I feel it for some reason. I feel like we're on the verge of some sea change, and it feels like the last great video game. I think this one is a plausibly that because how long can we continue to build these cathedrals that just they're not really hanging together? Like, the reason I'm gonna play Cyberpunk is the world. I want to check it out. I want to see the cathedral. I want to see the beauty, the surface beauty of this really incredibly elaborate and complicated piece of software that you can that's an experience, right? But then the idea of then like doing the quests and talking to going through the dialogue or the combat and the shooting the people and doing the inventory, like I have zero interest in that. I already know exactly what it's going to be. I can imagine it in my head, and that I don't know. I can't be the only one who feels this kind of like so tired of that core formula.
That's part of where my prediction comes from. I think that they've gotten overloaded, and you can see it in the fan frenzy, right? Of like people attaching all of their expectations and hopes and dreams to this game, and then falling into a fury and like kind of like like a wave crashing and devouring itself. But it's really inspiring me. I think I want to write something about the progression of CD Projekt Red's horniness, because they got to a point where they were like, now they're over intellectualizing. They're kind of Henry Millering into over themselves in the way that this latest game is horny, because their creative director is talking about like, this. I don't have a link for this, so I think we could probably dig it up somewhere. But he gave this interview where he was like, "Well, you see, we needed to have a lot of nudity and women being chopped up in this game because that's the theme of Cyberpunk. The body was once what we call in Latin sacrum, and now it is profanum, which means that like people don't care about their bodies anymore and they're losing their humanity," which was a stat in Cyberpunk 2020.
Right? Henry Miller, another great 20th century modernist novelist. So maybe this is thirsty modernism is what we can call this one.
Yeah, something like that. So it's just over intellectualized. Now they've reached the point where they're like someone who's just graduated from college and are trying to impress people by quoting Henry Miller, right? They're trying to be like, I don't know. There's any number of other 20th century authors who like you are kind of horny, and you quote them to like try and show people that you're on a date with that you have sex or something like that.
Wait till they discover Deleuze and Guattari.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe that will happen when they break up, or maybe people can just play like Pathologic 2 or something like that if they want something random. On guard. All right. Let's go to the next link. What do we have next? Oh yeah. Oh boy.
I'm at 14%. By the way, I'm hanging in there. 14%.
Yeah, you really are. And now
we're good.
We're at the Kardashian deepfake.
Oh, great.
So this is not a video game, but it's definitely a 3D model of Bobby Kardashian's face.
I'm sorry, I didn't know he was dead. All I know from this character is that he's in the movie about the OJ trial. Where he's played by the guy from Friends.
Yeah, right. Because he was O.J. Simpson's defense attorney. Yeah. That's how I first.
He definitely looks like Ross from Friends a little bit.
Right. A little bit, yeah. And I don't know. It's been a really long time since I've seen him on TV. Since I was like, I don't know, a teenager when he was on doing O.J. Simpson's defense. But yeah, he died like 17 years ago, and now they brought him back. And I guess
I don't know if we have any on cinema at the cinema heads in the chat, but for those of you who are out there, it's giving me some Tom Cruise Jr. vibes. A real, making me feel it.
Well, and I don't know. The funny thing about this is that you always think, oh wait, like how does the family feel about this, right? And well, so Kanye West made this. That's the amazing thing, is that like he was creatively involved in this. And yeah, like I can't hear the audio, but near the end, he's like, "You married the best, smartest guy anywhere, Kanye West." As a sort of like, I don't know, it's sort of joking and sort of not, right? But yeah, I don't know. Like, so
Kanye West used to be, wasn't there like a video game from Kanye West that was for a long time? He was poking around in the indie world trying to find someone.
Yeah,
to
he's
work
trying to
with
make a video
on a game. I think a bunch of people we know ended up doing a tour of duty in those trenches. I don't think anything ever came out though.
Yeah, no, I don't know what happened to that. Like, I remember for a while we were like, oh, maybe we should get Kanye West to come to the game center, right? This is back before Kanye West really
before he milkshake ducked himself.
Well, yeah, multiple times, like, like 12 times in a row, milkshake duck. But yeah, I don't know. I guess the Kardashians thought this was beautiful, and so maybe that's what really matters. I don't know. Yeah, so and of course a bunch of people are horrified by this, but then the responses are like, "Hey, shut up! This is their family. Let them do it."
It's expensive. It's a very expensive luxury good, and that's what makes it expressive. That's what makes it an appropriate thing to give your loved one if you are super wealthy and want to demonstrate your hipness to current technology.
Right. Yeah. So
the fact that it's like horribly tacky and inappropriate is sort of besides the point.
Right. It's just not everybody gets to have a dad ghost come to their birthday party. Therefore, it's valuable. And and this
reminds me about like a gold Rolex or something. Yeah, that's tacky, or gold, teeth fronts or something. It's like, the point. That's not the point. The point isn't whether it's tacky or not. It's a form of bling, really.
Right. But then, it reminded me of the nonprofit equivalent of this, right? Which was this PSA that came out from like that was made with the participation of one of the families who lost a kid in the Parkland shooting.
Yeah.
And there was another deepfake that like starred one of the victims who was kind of reconstructed. This was Joaquin Oliver, was reconstructed for a nonprofit's PSA about gun safety, and like sort of try to get people to vote for that. So like, it's like, okay, it's a good cause, and like, is this really persuading anybody? Like, or is it also just a sort of like, well, we made a gold toilet, we got you a gold Rolex to say, get out there and vote, kids. Like, I'm like,
do you think at some point you will be able to like be buried in a mausoleum with a little room that people can enter, and in that room there's you as a hologram, and you can just have a conversation with you and forever? Do you think that'll be a service that people will be offered to people?
No. I'm sure that will be a service, right? And
for one thing,
I saw it on an episode of Futurama, so I know it's going to happen, right?
Yeah, imagine walking into this lovely kind of marble like space, and they're just sitting on a bench is your hologram, and you get to sit down and chat with it, and it's kind of janky, but maybe it's not so bad, and it's like a drawing. It's something like a drawing or a painting, but it's weirder. But it's maybe a good. Maybe it's fine. Maybe these are fine. Maybe I'm convincing myself that I kind of like.
No, and here's how to frame it. It's like your loved one is gone, but they're just asleep now, and they're dreaming, and you can talk to their dreams.
Yeah,
because that's already what GPT can do that already.
Right. It's already just a dream in a sense. Like, we're already just doing some version of this and pretending that we're awake and alive. So yeah, I like it.
Yeah, and so it's probably going to happen. I think right now you can already have a TV installed in your mausoleum and have video play in perpetuity. There are cemeteries that offer that, and of course before that, there are photographs. Like, some people have photographs of themselves on their gravestone, right? And that has also been considered tacky for a long time, and so like not everybody does that, but it's like we respect the wishes of people who want that, right, or families who want that. So
yeah. So I'm turning around on this one. I'm saying 2 thumbs up on the Kardashian hologram.
The Kardashian hologram. Yeah, it's as long as it's available to everybody. I think.
I think it becomes better once it's no longer a luxury good that people are using to show off, and it's just a thing that people might do. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And yeah, like people mentioning Black Mirror, yeah, this is very much like that episode, or this episode is based on the same things. Yeah, it's trained on your emails and your social media posts for sure. But so really think about what you're writing right now, what you're putting in chat right now, because all of this Twitch chat history, like Jeff Bezos is going to store it and use it to tell your loved ones a ghost of you after you die. So chat, everyone in chat, just keep that in mind right now. This is going to be part of your ghost.
The deal that we made with Amazon to sell your data was on very good terms. So at least take some comfort from that. Naomi and I have done very well by it. So at least there's that.
Yeah, every time one of you comes back as a ghost, our ghosts will get residuals because we're going to die way before all of you, just to be clear.
It's a pyramid scheme. It's a pyramid scheme.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying here?
Yeah, exactly. So our ghosts, Naomi's and Frank's ghosts, we'll be like, hey, I'm aware as Naomi's ghost that we just made another 2 cents because Jeff Petriolo's ghost was just activated. Yeah, that's right. That's how it's gonna work. Okay, let's move past deepfakes. See if we can how much more stuff we can get to.
10%. I'm on 10%.
Okay, here's the big long read, recommended long read for the week, especially for those of you who are like, I don't know, think about what is it like to work in the game industry? Like, are you running a business side of this show and of the games in general? This is like one of the more interesting in-depth accounts of Sierra Online that I have read for a long time, right? And it's about how the Ken and Roberta Williams, they were in charge of Sierra. They had somebody on their board who was this guy Forbes, like Robert Forbes or someone like that, and he convinced them to sell Sierra to this corporation that basically turned out to be an enormous, like, fraudulent hoax of a company that was just completely making up earnings, out of vapor and air, right? And that, of course, that's what destroyed Sierra, right? And I don't think I ever really knew about this side of it. Like, I was aware, like many game companies that no longer exist, right? You're like, oh, something bad happened to them business-wise. Maybe somebody unscrupulous bought the company, or it was like, merged with these 10 other things and lost its identity. But this Walter Forbes is really just like an enormous villain in this story who is just trying to defraud people and manages to do so in a way that, like, completely.
I think season 3 of *Halt and Catch Fire* is about this.
Oh,
episode.
Really?
And yeah, and so first of all, shout out to Lane Nooney, friend of the show.
Yep.
And world-renowned Sierra Online scholar. I'm a little surprised I had to learn about this from a Vice article, Lane. I'm surprised you hadn't told me the story. I'm sure there's a
lot that you could study with Sierra. It's not all about these these particular things. But yeah, I actually went and looked for the Lane Nooney take on this article, and I did not find one from Lane yet. But
he's sitting on this. I think there's a book in this, is my guess.
Well, apparently, according to Salty Horse in chat, Ken Williams has a book out, and yeah,
most written by Lane Nooney, maybe.
Yeah, possibly. I wouldn't be surprised. But I don't know, they're surfacing more and more in retrospectives lately, and I feel like it's partially due to Lane's efforts. And then
interesting. I love that there aren't that many famous married couples in game design, right?
Right.
I think of the Roberta and Ken as sort of the Yola Tango of adventure games.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
And so Ken Williams, he's really way more out there in public than he had been in previous years. And after this article came out, he basically went onto Twitter and started arguing with a bunch of people about their interpretations of this article, which is, it's I guess would classically be considered a Twitter faux pas, but I kind of love to see it with Ken Williams getting out there in public again.
Love to see it.
Yeah, and so like I think that people were like, oh man, this is what happens with capitalism. Like game companies just get destroyed because I don't know, like it's not that huge of a stretch to be like, oh yeah, you wanted to cash in by selling your company. The rest of your board thought this was a terrible idea and that it would ruin the Twitter were like, hey, hold on, like this is how this stuff happens, right? It's just pure like chasing money. And Ken Williams is like, no, it's not because of capitalism. It's because Walter Forbes is a bad guy. And so I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And it sort of devolves from here. They're like he gets accused of having Stockholm syndrome for capitalism.
We can certainly blame this on capitalism, but then we have to give capitalism credit for Sierra Online existing in the first place too. So it's kind of
right. That's kind of the issue. Like Ken Williams clearly had this capitalist ambition. That's why Sierra got created. But whatever, it's like to have arguments about whether capitalism is to blame for something. It's like fish having arguments about like, oh, is this place too wet or not wet enough? I don't know. Right. It's just we're stuck inside of it. It's determined everything already. It's hard, like, well, how would this game company have operated outside of capitalism? We can maybe imagine things, but it has nothing to do with what actually happened.
Here's the thing. Yeah. It turned out historically there was another place that fish could go that wasn't wet. And it's good that they discovered that, right? They kept going.
And then they weren't even fishing.
They kept complaining, and eventually it got fixed.
All right, so we've now gone all the way to the evolutionary metaphor for post-capitalist society. We'll see. Yeah, I don't know. The
high modernism.
There we go. This reminded me of the thing that you were saying to me on Twitter last night, right? About like, is unfettered greed and ambition preferable to people who are just fanatics for their ideological principles?
Yeah, I mean, it's not that I've had this argument with lots of my friends
Hmm.
actually. My theory is that a little bit of corruption is a good thing. Because you want people's ideologies to be leaky. You don't want people to be pure ideologues who are motivated by nothing but 100% commitment to their principles. You actually want them to have a certain amount of like practical minded kind of corruption. Like they're willing to compromise a little bit here and there, cut corners in order to.
Well, they're a little bit realpolitik. You mean?
Yeah, but not just realpolitik, but also just motivated by their career and their attempts to get people to like them and to be popular and successful, because ultimately our ideologies, even when they're ours, are dangerous in the sense that if we take them as totalizing,
right? If they're totalizing,
if we take them as being the one true like explanation for the world or the one true motivation.
Yeah, if we have a religious attachment to the ideology, like we don't want to go. My thing is we want different kinds of people, right?
I'm a pluralist, right? I'm a pluralist,
sure.
And when it
could
comes
be across
to
different people.
Yeah, I want people to have mixed motivations. I want people to have multi-layered identities. I want people to have a foot in multiple camps, and I don't want people to be pure 100% motivated by a commitment to their principles, even if those principles are the same as mine.
Right, yeah, but you want them to be in the mix somewhere, right? As opposed to people being totally amoral careerists, right?
The thing is, right now, we're suffering under the opposite problem. So right now, in the era of Trump, which is about to come to an end, we're experiencing the other, which is a person with no principles and a bunch of people in their camp who also are motivated by nothing but a kind of like pragmatic approach to
including a bunch of Democrats, which I think
we're suffering. Yeah, we're suffering at the hand of a bunch of opportunists now. So we're especially sensitive to the harm that brings. But I also think it's true that you want to be somewhere in the middle there. You don't want to be all the way on the other side.
Okay, we want to wrap up with one link with a special shout out to Austin Walker. Watch Dogs Legion came out, Clint Hawking's latest, and Austin Walker has a really interesting long review of it that I'd love to Yeah, love to promote to you guys because he has a really interesting look into what it does and doesn't do politically as a simulation of a world where anybody could get involved in like revolutionary subversive action. It really reminds me of what people used to say about Clint Hawking's game Far Cry 2, right? Which was also like people praised for being very nuanced and like an incredibly detailed simulation, but that somehow also is just like a bloody shooting game, right? So yeah, Watch Dogs Legion is still a Watch Dogs game.
Okay, so Watch Dogs Legion's the last great video game. We can all agree on that. And Austin Walker, this is a great article. I really loved it. It's honest. He's conflicted. Like he doesn't quite know what to say or what to think. It's clearly that the team on this game has made a really committed effort to kind of give Austin Walker exactly what he asked for. I wouldn't be surprised if they hadn't actually read, some of his writing about the earlier Watch Dogs and directly incorporated some of that thinking to the game. So it's a very, and the fact that he doesn't really love it, it kind of, you can feel that he's a little confused and a little bit sad about it. He doesn't know quite how to articulate it. He doesn't know quite how to explain it. And I think that's the way I feel about video games all the time. Like that is the perfect encapsulation of like, what, wait a minute, what is it that I want? I'm not even sure. Anyway, really, really good and honest.
Yeah, I mean, this is the interesting thing. It's showing that like even in these huge budget AAA games, you reach the limits of the form that are not because you don't have enough money, but because this particular form, this type of commercial product can't do everything, right? Yeah. It's just like, it is what it is. And there's some stuff like baked into its core that will keep it from expressing whatever you want it to express.
It's baked modernism is what it is. You know what? I'm down to my last shreds of electricity. And
all right, we made it. We made it. We're out of time.
I'm going to sign off because I'm about to lose my thread.
Yeah, let's go why the going's good.
Thanks everybody. Thanks chat. Thank you Logan and Mirabai. Thanks Naomi.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Discourse. Once again, your news hosts have been Naomi Clark and Frank Lance. I was your behind-the-scenes operator, Logan Clare. Graphics are by Winnie Song, and captioning, as always, by Mirabai Knight of Stenonite Cart Services. As a reminder, this Thursday, November 5th at 7 p.m., tune in for our next lecture series event with Joost van Dronen right here on our Twitch channel. He will be sharing some expertise on the business of video games. Very exciting stuff. Please come by and check that out. Also, if you haven't yet, please go vote. That's all for now. Thanks again for watching, and see you all next week.